Now done.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're- People are still showing up, and that's fine. We'll let you in from that waiting room. We have Diana Weaver here today from Friends of Kansas Libraries to tell you about Friends of the Library groups and how Focal can help, and to answer all of your burning questions that you have about Friends groups. And I will just let Diana go ahead and take it away.
Okay, well, thank you, Amy and Sharon. Thank you for letting me be here this afternoon and joining your group of new librarians. I'm Diana Weaver. I'm currently the treasurer for the Friends of Kansas Libraries, also known as Focal. Focal is a statewide organization. We have members that include individuals, libraries, library systems, and local friends organizations. And our mission is to encourage and support new and existing local friends groups. So that's why I'm here today. So let's change the screen if it will change. Well, let me stop the share. Try again. There we go. Sorry about that. Always a hiccup, right? Now let's see if it'll change. There we go. Okay, so first of all, let me say thank you to all of you who are new and experienced librarians. You've chosen a wonderful profession and kind of a hard job sometimes, but what you do for your communities is so very important. So thank you for doing that. What we're going to talk about today is how our friends group can benefit your library, how you can ensure a better relationship between the library and the friends, and how you can start or re-energize an existing friends group, and how Focal can help. So first of all, though, I'd like to have you introduce yourselves. I'd like to get to know you a little bit. So if you want to turn on your mic or type in the chat, and feel free during the presentation at any time to ask questions or make comments. It looks like it's a pretty small group, so that will be great. I want this to be a discussion. So I'll start. I live in Lawrence. I retired from the Basehor Community Library about a year ago after being director there for 13 years. I'm still active in their friends group. What I love about the library is how welcoming it is to everyone. Basehor Library has a very active friends group. It wasn't always that way. So I know that the rebirth of friends groups is possible. So who's next? Someone else want to introduce themselves?
In the chat, we have Lou from the Hive Library at Pleasanton. She says she loves her staff and how they interact with the community.
Awesome.
And they do not have a friends group.
Okay, great. Well, maybe we can start one up. What about you, Lou? Where are you from?
That was Lou from Pleasanton.
Oh, that is Lou from Present. Okay, she was in chat. Okay, anybody else want to share?
I am Morgan from the Kincaid Community Library, and I just recently took on the position as director at Colony City Library as well. And Kincaid actually just created a friends group this month, and our first official meeting is in January. So I have a few questions that need to be answered, and we're very excited about that.
Okay, that is exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
In the chat, we have Valerie from Thayer. They do not have a friends group at their library.
Okay.
And we have Rhiannon from the Bronson Library. They do not have a friends group. And she loves that she has several dedicated patrons who come into the library regularly.
Very good. Is that everybody?
No, there we go. Brittany.
Hi,
Brittany.
I'm Brittany with the Mound City Library, and we do not have a friends group either.
Okay, what's so special about your library or your community?
It's just a great town to live in. I've really enjoyed it. I've been here about 3 years now, and it's just been a great place for my family.
Great, that's awesome.
Then our last
Uh,
one is Kevin at Cherryvale.
Cherryville, okay.
And I guess I count. I'm the director at Iola still for a little bit.
Okay,
You
now
are.
it's the audio working.
Yeah,
Okay, I was gonna say, well, you've already gotten the name, Kevin, Cherryville Public Library. We do have a Friends of the Library group, but it is still rather small. One of the things I would say that is impressive about our library, though, is that for how small our town is, some of our events still reach upwards to, I think. Our last event was the Halloween event that we had that reached out to approximately 300 people.
wow. Very cool. All right. Well, that's great. Great to meet everybody. Let's talk about the top reasons for having a friends group. Some of you do and some of you don't yet, but here's why you should. So one of the big advantages is that they can raise money to support your programs and fund purchases for the library that aren't in your budget. Friends can also provide volunteers for library events, and sometimes they can represent the library at community events. So they can also plan their own events to raise money or just have an event to build goodwill for the library. And they can help widen the connections in the community and spread the word about how great the library is. So let's talk about the benefits for the members. I'm totally having tech problems here. We're
Can
gonna
you use your
do,
arrow buttons? Sometimes those work better for advancing the slides.
you know what, maybe it's because it's, yeah, you know, let's try something else here. If you don't mind looking at the sidebar, it might just go better like this.
There you go.
Okay. Not quite as clean and pretty, but it will have to work. So, benefits to members. So many friends groups offer incentives for joining the members group. Sometimes they friends will get first option at the book sale, or sometimes there are some friends members only. But I would say that one of the biggest advantages is that the social contact. People who are friends love books. They love the library and they like to be around people who have those common loves. So, and it feels good to be part of a cause that you believe in, that you know will benefit the entire community. So, friends groups bring people together. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits. So, I'm going to share with you my 3 tips for having successful friends group. And I feel like you need to have these in place before you even get to the nuts and bolts of how to create a friends group. And we'll talk about that later. But One of the first is to have clearly defined and clearly understood roles and responsibilities for the director, the library board, and the Friends. So we're going to do a little quiz here just to make sure that we're clear on who does what in the library. So feel free to speak out or put the answer in chat. So the first question is, who will prepare the annual budget for the library? So who does that? Anybody?
Who's supposed to do it or who actually does it? That's a trick question.
Well, who's responsible for it?
Oh, okay. Well, that's an easy.
Well, the library board, right? The library board is responsible for the budget. That's one of their big responsibilities. And of course, they're going to get input from the director. Maybe even the director's going to write it for them, but it is the library board's responsibility to do that. So who conducts fundraising to support the library's missions and plans? The Friends, right? So it's important to recognize that support the library's missions and plans. So the Friends don't raise money to support other community organizations. They don't raise money for their own mission and plans. They raise money for the library's missions and plans. So who is it that creates a wish list that indicates the library's needs or wants that need to be funded and supported by the Friends? You do, the library director. You need to create a wish list for the Friends. This is really important. The more specific, the better. Buying supplies for summer reading, you want new furniture, you want a sign out front, whatever. But if you have a wish list with prices, it's even better. It's clear to the Friends what they should be raising money for. So, second question to that is, who will create the wish list? Well, that's your job as director. I know you have a lot to do. You wear many hats, but it's very crucial that the director, sorry, I skipped ahead there. So who's going to administer the daily operation of the library, including personnel, collection development, blah, 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 everything under the roof? That's you. But who's going to participate with the library board and in the Friends meetings? That's you also. This does not mean that you should be the secretary or treasurer of the Friends group. In fact, you shouldn't be, although sometimes that happens. The point of the Friends group is that they are supplemental. I know from experience, it's hard to keep your mouth shut when you're having a meeting, but it's important that you keep those roles separate. So it's really important that you attend the Friends meeting.
In Pennsylvania, I was listed as the library liaison. That was my role in their organization's meeting. I wasn't even library director, I was library liaison, and that really helped clarify for them and clarify for me what my role was back in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and I was the same way when I was at Vassar. I was the liaison. And that way I could report to them. The library board was thinking, could report to them about what we were doing with the library. But I was separate from that board, and I never voted. So ex officio, I think is what that's called. All right, so who will promote the mission of the library in the community? All three. Who will adopt written policies to govern the operation and programs of the library? Who writes the policies? the library board, right? That's their other responsibility besides the budget, is to write the policies. The Friends have their own set of bylaws and policies. Who will support and abide by the policies of the library as adopted by the library board? Everyone will. The director, the board, the Friends. So if the Friends want to do something like have an after hours event, they need to talk to the library board. If they want to purchase books for the library, they need to abide by the library's collection development policy. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So there's a wonderful book called The Good, the Great, and the Unfriendly by Sally Gardner Reed, which is about friends groups and libraries. I highly recommend it. She says nothing has doomed the relationship between friends and the library more than misunderstandings about how the money and the time of the friends group might be spent. So, do we really need a memorandum of understanding between the Friends and the library? Is it necessary to put it all in writing? Sharon's shaking her head. But the
I have
decision
horror
is,
stories, so.
I get it. The decision, I think, is up to you. I've never had one in my experience, but if we have a group that comes to folk and things are unfriendly, between the board and the Friends, first thing we say is, do you have an MOU? And if they don't, then we recommend it's time to sit down and write one. And who participates? The library director, the library board, and the Friends all sit down and write an MOU. If that's something you want to explore, we have a sample of that on the Focal website, which I'm going to give you a tour of here in a few minutes. It's just something to think about. Who will advocate for the library to local legislators? Well, everybody. But I remember one time when I was library director in Atchison, and the city council was not real friendly or receptive to the budget that we were presenting. And so the next time I went, I invited a bunch of our friends to go along, and they were taxpayers, and they wanted the city council to know that they supported the budget requests of the library. So it was very, very helpful, and helpful that some of the Friends were neighbors of city council members as well. That's small town. So they can be very helpful advocates. So last question, who will join the Friends of Kansas Libraries and take advantage of all the wonderful resources? All are welcome. Library directors, library friends groups, libraries, library systems, everyone is welcome. We have different membership levels, and we'd love to have you join us. So before I get to my second tip, do we have any questions or comments? Anything?
Would you
in the chat?
recommend that the Friends Group be a 501c3? Be
Yes.
their own organization?
Yes, and we'll talk about that in a minute on how that works.
Okay. So it's not a club, it's actually an organization.
It's an organization, and it has to be registered with the IRS and registered with the state of Kansas. So my second tip, oh, I just added one, hit the wrong button. Okay. Okay, so my second tip is you need a project or goal. So the thing about today's volunteers is that they're different than maybe they used to be. They don't join a group just to join a group. but they will give of their time to a project. They may want flexibility, which is certainly understandable in today's world. They don't want to sit in meetings, but they are willing to help if they know what's needed. So they want tangible results. So here's a reminder of SMART goals. When you have a project or a wish list, you want to make sure that it's specific, that it's attainable in a time that has a beginning and an end, and that it will be meaningful to the volunteers. So here's some project ideas from friends groups around the state. You can see two flyers there. One is for an after-hours wine and cheese tasting fundraiser. One is for a holiday homes tour fundraiser. But in the upper right, if you can see that, there is a project that the librarian in Lansing requested from their friends. She wanted to build a patio on the back of the library. So the friends held several fundraisers and were able to pay for the fence and the awning and the lights and the furniture. So that's a great example of a specific project. But also keep in mind that all projects don't have to be fundraisers. On the left, you can see the Baser Friends at their booth at the annual community festival. We had a button maker, and we made buttons out of the designs that the kids or the adults made, and we did it for free. So we were just there promoting the library, so partly so staff could keep the library open on a Saturday, but also just to bring goodwill to the library. And finally, the picture in the middle shows a Friends program where people just came, met, and put together jigsaw puzzles. They could bring their own, or they could purchase one of the puzzles that had been donated to the Friends. So again, just a project program to bring goodwill to the library. So, anybody have any ideas? Here's a Friends vision board that was in the September newsletter for Friends of Kansas Libraries. Susan Bryant does a fantastic job with our newsletter, and she's put together flyers from different programs from Friends across the state, membership drive programs, fundraisers, and of course, book sales. Anybody want to share a program that they have?
So
Okay.
at our first unofficial meeting, when everybody was kind of spitballing what our ideas were and stuff, the Kincaid just started a cornhole league every Friday. And so once a month, the Friends decided that they would host a concession stand to raise money that way.
Fantastic. It's a great idea. You're out there where the people are. Anybody else want to share?
A project that our friends took on was the story walk. So two of my friends take the story walk pictures and go around the square and replace them about 2 or 3 times a year.
Very good. Who's in Cherryvale?
That's a kid.
One program that our friends do every year is that they bake and sell Valentine's Day cookies.
Very nice. That's a great fundraiser. And also, everybody loves cookies and libraries. Okay, anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to my third tip for success. to identify and recruit an enthusiastic and committed core group. This is really important because right at the startup, as those of you who are starting up know that there's a lot of work to do. So you want to think about who in your community would join for a Friends Core Committee. Think about who uses the library, who loves the library, is enthusiastic about the library, but also people who have special skills. So an attorney or an accountant are very helpful for your startup and on your board. And then look at who's active in the community. People who are active in the community are usually active because they love the community, they have good people skills, they have good organizational skills. So reach out to them, and then once you have a few people, ask them, who do you know that would be willing to come and help us out? Okay, so those are my 3 tips. Here's how to start a friends group. You have a purpose, you have a wish list maybe, you have some goals in mind, you have a core committee committed to starting a friends group. So what's next? So part of the job of the startup committee is to write the bylaws. It doesn't have to be everybody. You can form a subcommittee to write the bylaws. You need to talk about an MOU. Do you think it's necessary? What would that look like? And maybe you want to wait till later, but you need to talk about it and look at the roles and responsibilities just so that everybody is clear. You need to obtain a tax identification number, begin the process to obtain a 501c3, decide on a due structure, and we would love for you to apply for a focal startup grant. We have grants of $150 to anybody who wants to start a friends group that covers the cost of maybe the beginning meetings or some of the flyers, membership, things like that. And then recruit members. Okay, so that's a lot. Sounds like a lot, right? So Focal is here to help. And we have a website, focal.net, that we've put together with tons of resources for you. And I'm going to take you on a tour for that, of that. We also have the startup grants, and we have lots of friends with experience. So, yes, Sharon.
Well, I looked up for the start of 501c3 and it's $275 to $600. Is that something you think the library should help pay for? Use that startup grant to help pay for, or the first project of the friends, or the first use of membership dues?
Well, that's kind of sticky because what the funds that the libraries have are tax dollars. And so what you're talking about is using tax dollars to form an organization that is separate from the library. So I talked to Mike McDonald of Northeast Kansas Library System about that at the conference last week. And, you know, he said he'd do more research on it, but that's kind of a sticky area. So you might discuss that more with him and think about that, but I would hesitate to use tax dollars for that.
But maybe have that be a very first project or goal that's identified by the group to fundraise for, or to gather dues for.
Yeah, because I mean, the 501c3 is important because it helps you raise money. You don't have to pay taxes on it. There's advantages. Those are the biggest advantage of a 501c3 is that you can gather money and not have to pay tax on it.
Right. Well, and we're finding that more and more grants don't necessarily recognize libraries as a nonprofit, because we're government.
Right.
And so you need a 501c3 that is a true nonprofit organization according to the IRS to get charitable donations, to get grants, to get all sorts of things.
Exactly. And, you know, they might get real sticky about that. So you're probably better off raising the money yourself as a friends group. So I'm going to show you, can you see that? Okay. The website of the Friends of Kansas Libraries. Is that coming up on your screen? Okay. So this is focal.net. This is our website. Everything we've talked about so far this afternoon is on this website, plus a whole lot more. On the menu here, anything you want to know about Focal is there, and our contact information is there. There's also information about the grants and awards that we give. We have challenge grants that we give out once a year in April. So if a library friends group has a project, they can apply to have Focal match their amount. So we've had some great projects come out of that. Every year at the Kansas Library Association, we give out awards. We give out an outstanding group award, an outstanding individual award, and a leadership award. And then we also have the startup grants. And if you're curious, there's a list of award and grant winners from the past there. Under our resources, we have starting a new friends group. And so I'm going to open up that page and show you that, because it is a great page for you to look at while you're contemplating this. So everything, like I said, everything we talked about is here. The working together, the roles and responsibilities, the top reasons for having a friends group, our contact information, how to get a hold of us. And here are the steps. So decide on the name for your friends group, establish bylaws. There's a link to a sample of bylaws here. And here is the link for applying for a tax identification number from the IRS. So that's one of the first things you'll need to do. Actually, it's the second, because you need, in order to apply for the tax ID number, they're going to ask to see your bylaws. So bylaws, tax ID number, checking account, and then explore the 501c3 tax exempt status. We have an application here. It's a pretty long application. It takes some time to do it. And as Sharon said, there's a fee. And then once you get that, we have a link to the Kansas State Secretary of State's guidance on starting a nonprofit. You'll have to register with the state, and there's a link to tell you how to do that. Step-by-step process for those of you who are thinking about having a friends group, starting a friends group, and a list of resources here. Most of what we have on this page comes from the American Library Association, United for Libraries, and Friends of Tennessee Libraries. You'll see documents from the Friends of Tennessee and the Friends of Connecticut Libraries, because they did a great job of putting all this stuff together, and we didn't see any need to reinvent the wheel. So if you want to look at the resources by topic, there's this page. This also has great information, some of the same information, but organized in a different way. So there's a fact sheet, a toolkit, a to-do list. Here's the memorandum of understanding, a sample for that. And sales tax information, state and federal reporting information. There is a yearly report, both for the state and for the national IRS, that friends groups need to submit every year. And then there's information about friends and foundations, a good kind of step-by-step thing to think about for revitalizing an existing group, and some tips for advocacy, because a big part of your friends group is advocacy, not just on the local level, but also for the state, for our state legislature. So then I want to invite you all to our First Friday events. So every first Friday of the month, we won't meet in November or December, but we'll start back up in January. And we have Zoom meetings, gathering of friends and librarians across the state. We share ideas to talk about different topics. Usually each First Friday has a topic. And you can see here the archives of ones that we've had in the past. There's some great information there, 30 to 45 minutes. You want to spend some time looking at these conversations, and you might even suggest to some people who are in your core committee that they would look at some of these fundraising ideas. There's a startup success story from the Wetmore Library. Lots of information, lots of things that will make you empowered, enthusiastic about what you're trying to accomplish. And then finally, we have our newsletter. So we have an archive of all the newsletters that we've put out over the last several years. They contain ideas, they contain success stories from friends groups from across the state. So take a few minutes to look through those, and I think you'll find some great inspiration.
Diana, Morgan had a question.
Yes.
Would someone from Focal be willing to review the bylaws when they get them finished to make sure they look good before they file for their tax ID?
Absolutely. On the contact page has our email. That's right here in front of me as well. So friendsofkansaslibraries@gmail.com. So absolutely send it, and someone will look at it and give you some suggestions.
Have you had friends groups who, they've been chugging along for decades as sort of a subgroup of the library with, say, the library director as treasurer, the library director as membership chair? How do you convince that group that they need to go through the trouble of becoming a 501c3 and sort of driving their own bus?
Well, I think looking at those roles and responsibilities, and maybe even looking at the memorandum of understanding, maybe re-signing it, revisiting it, and talking about tax dollars. I mean, taxes are a high interest issue, and also in the media a lot, talking about what your taxes are paying for, and they're not paying for a friends group. They're paying for services of the library. And so I think just having that conversation between the library board and the library director and the friends group, and saying, look, it's come to our attention that maybe we're not doing this right. So let's rethink this, and maybe we can get some new ideas and some more energy.
Thank you.
A difficult conversation. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
So our friends group is primarily elderly individuals, and they said that they just don't want to deal with the paperwork that comes with becoming a 501c3. Now as the library said, that we would be more than happy to assist them with this paperwork, but they still are very reluctant to do so. Can we fill out that paperwork on their behalf just to get that going, or do they have to be the ones to do so?
Well, it at the very least, it should be done together. because they're signing up to be responsible for reporting. They're going to have their name listed as board members when you do file it. So at least they should be involved. I understand that you might have to fill it out actually and do that. That happens, but and sometimes it's you have to do things in order to get things started that maybe you say, well, that's not my job, but the benefits of having a friends group probably outweighs that. But they definitely need to be involved, because when it comes to the IRS, when they look at that organization and who's the board members of it, they're going to see their names there. It's not going to be your name, it's going to be their name. So they at least need to be a part of that process. And, it doesn't necessarily need to be those same people. If you can find some other people, a core group or other people who can come in and help you with those, with the current group, it might be that maybe these people are looking for a way to step out of it. And obviously if they've been around the library a long time, they care a great deal about the library. And it might help to have new people come in, new enthusiasm, and maybe they'll look at themselves and say, maybe my time is done. I've done my job. Maybe my time is done. So if you can kind of work that to where you can give them an out if that's what they need, or bring in some new people that would energize them. Maybe they have kids or grandkids that would be interested in joining. I don't know your small town, but and I will say this about the life cycle of an organization. Sometimes there's a birth and sometimes there's a death, and sometimes you have to let things go before you can rebuild. And that's kind of what happened to us in Basehor, is that we just kind of had to let it go to ashes, and then out of the ashes we had a rebirth. So that's something to consider. But I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Morgan.
So I understand that somebody on my Kincaid Library Board cannot also serve on the Friends of the Kincaid Library Board because it's a conflict of interest, correct?
Yes, I think that would, and I know that that's hard in a small town, but the library board is responsible for the budget and for the policies, and the Friends are not responsible for those things. So they could be in a liaison, to use Sharon's word again, to both groups, but they should not be a member of both, because that does seem like a conflict of interest.
Okay, so since I am a director at 2 libraries, then could one of the Colony Library board members, if they were interested in being on the Kincaid Friends of the Library Board, would that be, and vice versa? That would be
Yeah.
okay?
I think that would be okay. Yeah,
Okay.
because you're talking taxing entities, and if they're in one taxing entity but are friends of another one, yeah, I don't think that would be a problem.
Okay, and then also along the board meetings, is it like the library board where you can only serve X amount of time and then you have to be off X amount of time, or is that not a thing?
That's up to the bylaws that you write.
Okay.
I'll just speak to our experience in Basehor. We did, the bylaws did not have a term limit. And when things kind of fizzled out and we rebuilt with the new bylaws, we did put in a term limit, which, it means that we're losing good people every 4 years, but at the same time, we're bringing in new people. But that's up to you. That's up to the Friends and how they write their bylaws.
So we could have a term limit, and then if that, say the president still wants to continue to be the president, they could do it again after their term was over.
What we put in Baser is that they had to be off for a year and then they could come back on. But again, it's whatever you write in the bylaws and your membership approves.
Okay. Is that also like the quorum? You don't have to have a quorum there.
It's defined in your bylaws.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's different. So library law.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
Yeah, you're a nonprofit. So your bylaws need to be well thought out, because that they give you the rules that your board has to abide by. But like I try to get my board members to be members of the Friends, like pay your $5 and be a member of the Friends, but they can't serve on the board of the Friends.
Right. Okay.
It does make for a good pipeline. Sometimes we had a really active Friends member, and when her term limit came up, there was an opening on our library board. And so she moved from that. I think that could go the other way, but not at the same time in the same taxing district.
Right. My problem is with my library board, they have to be in the township, which is really hard sometimes to find somebody in our township to be on the board. But with the library board, it could be anyone, as far as I know, correct? Yeah, so it'll be a lot easier to find members, board members.
For the Friends or for the
Friends?
Yeah. Because you can, you don't have to have a district defined. I live 30 miles away from Baser. I'm a Friend. I live 90 miles from Atchison. I'm a Friend there. So there's no restrictions on that. Well, any other questions? Do you have anything else, Sharon?
Oh, I was trying to think of some other interesting Friends fundraising activities, but that's kind of the fun of it, is figuring out how you want to fundraise. I appreciate the having a project, and so that they're fundraising for a goal, instead of what we do is we fundraise and then I develop the wish list to spend the money. And I think it's backwards. I think we need to do it the other way around, where we decide as a group what is it that we want, some big audacious goal, and then fundraise for it. I like that. Then you have a purpose.
You have a purpose and you have a reason for people to volunteer because they have a goal, and then it feels great when you get there, when you finish that goal. So I would encourage everybody to right now, go to the focal.net page, subscribe to the newsletter. It's very easy, and you'll get lots of great ideas from that. And then join us in January for the final Fridays. And again, if you have any questions, any thoughts, friendsofthelibrary@gmail.com. We're happy to help.
Thank you so much, Diana. Are there any more questions?
Let's see.
All right, looks like we might be ready to wrap up. Do you have anything else for us, Diana?
No, not that I can think of. Just best of luck to all of you. It's the benefits once you get started. The benefits are wonderful. Again, they can extend your staff. They can fundraise beyond your budget, and just provide a wonderful group of people that just enjoy to get together, and that's really a value to the community from a library as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
next time.
We'll get this recording up on the YouTube channel.